everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm doing another foundation first impression. I've done two so far, so if you haven't seen those, I'll link them either down below or at the end. You should definitely go check those out because I'm doing a whole month of testing, or maybe even longer, however long, of testing loads of different foundations. If there's any you want me to try as well, make sure you mention that in the comments down below so I know to get it and test it out for you. But today's one, I didn't even know this existed until I just happened to look on Beauty Bay, and it's the Ardell Cameraflage High Def Foundation. I didn't know Ardell did foundation or any other makeup, to be honest. I thought they just did false lashes. So yeah, I thought I have to try that. I was very intrigued. They're cruelty free, which is great. It was £15, no, that's a lie. It was £10 on Beauty Bay. I think it might have actually gone up to £10.95 now, but yeah, I paid £10. Yeah, so we're going to be testing this out. On the back here it says it's full coverage and matte finish. I don't tend to go for matte foundations, however, I want to test out a variety. Oh my good lord, that man is very loud. Let me close that. Forgot what I was saying now. Yeah, it's a matte finish, so I usually prefer dewy foundations. However, I want to try out various finished foundations because not everyone loves a dewy look. Some people like matte and some like to, you know, have a satin or whatever. So I'm going to try and test out a variety, basically, and push myself out of the comfort zone because I might really like this, even though it's matte finish, you know. So I'm just going to read you a little bit about the foundation. Also quickly to mention, I have to say the only thing I'm not impressed with is the shade range. They have 12 shades, but there's sort of two fair, one that's kind of pinky and one that's peachy yellowy, and even that, it's not really fair. So if you have super fair skin, then you're probably not going to be able to get this foundation in your shade, which I think is very disappointing. And then there's lots of sort of medium tones, and then there's two deep skin tones. However, they really do not go deep enough. Like, this is the deepest shade, I don't know if you can see, which, yeah, is shocking. I just think this day and age, makeup brands should have a variety that's going to suit everyone, because why wouldn't you? So that's the only thing that I'm really not impressed with. Thankfully I did manage to pick up, I think, my shade, but yeah. So here it says it's a full coverage foundation packed with extreme pigments. Cameraflage High Def Foundation offers total coverage in just one pump. Bloody hell, that's a bold statement. Without caking, the high definition matte formula evens skin tones, smooths fine lines and prevents shine for a camera ready complexion that lasts all day long. That's pretty bold to say that it does it in one pump. But yeah, let's give it a go. Let's see. It's just like a clear plastic bottle with a clear kind of somewhat see-through black plastic lid, and the writing and foundation on the top with the shade on the bottom. I picked up medium 5.0, by the way. It is 30ml foundation, which is standard foundation size, and it's got a pump, which I love. It's also the sort of pump where the bottom pushes up the product, so you literally don't waste any, which I love. And if it is the case that you get one pump and it does your entire face, then that's pretty good. You know, that's going to last a long time. I actually think it might be a bit light for me, you know. We'll see, it'll be fine. So as always, I will be priming one half of my face so that I can see if primer affects performance wear, etc. Whether the foundation works well with a primer and all that jazz. Going to prime the right side of my face. And I'm also going to be testing whether I prefer to use a brush or a damp sponge. This brush is like amazing for foundation, but it started to flipping well shed. How annoying. I've had it for years though, to be fair. So I'm gonna do one pump when it comes out eventually. Oh, that was kind of a, oh, do you know, it's quite runny. I thought it would be really thick, but it's actually quite runny. That's not very much, that's not a very big pump. Oh yeah, look, it is runny, it runs down my hand. I'm going to do another sort of half pump because the first pump usually is a tiny amount. So I think this might be a tiddy bit pale for me, but we can just put loads of bronzer on. So I'm going to start on the unprimed side of my face and start with the brush. I usually quite like how brushes work with super thin foundation, and this feels really, really thin, so. Oh, I mean, I spoke too soon. I do not like the brush with this foundation. No. Let's go in with the sponge. Oh, much better. Okay, so do not like the brush with this. You can, even though it's a really thin foundation, you can see like all the brush marks in it, which is just not a good look. The colour actually matches me really well. That's good. I've tinted my eyebrows again, which is why they look crazy, but like I always say, they will be fine once I've put the rest of my makeup on. Okay, so that's one pump and it's only done half of my face, so a pump definitely doesn't do your entire face and definitely doesn't give you full coverage. I can still see my freckles and a little bit of the pinkness in my cheeks. Does look really nice on my skin. It's very thin and lightweight, so it does look like it's just my skin. But I'm going to see if I can build that up in a bit. I will go in with the brush again just to see how it applies on the prime side, see if that's any different. Okay, yeah, the brush is way better on the prime side. It's a lot smoother and blended out a lot easier. However, I still don't massively love it, so I'm going to go back in with a sponge. 9 times out of 10, I tend to prefer a damp beauty sponge for applying my foundation, so that's not a surprise, to be honest. Like I said, it's definitely not full coverage. I mean, I'm going to get closer. Like, you can still see my freckles and my larger freckles, a little bit of the pinkness in my cheeks. I actually love how this looks because I prefer a medium to kind of full coverage. I like to be able to see my freckles through, just so it looks a bit more natural and my skin looks a little bit nicer. But it claimed to be full coverage in one pump and I've used 2 pumps and it's still not full coverage. So I'm going to do one more pump. I'm going to see if I can build the coverage just mainly across my cheeks, to be honest. That's where the pinkness really shows through, and I might put a little bit across my nose just to see if I can cover my freckles. Not that I particularly want to, but I just want to see if it's buildable. Yeah, it's definitely buildable. That has made a massive difference, so that's good. It's just the fact that they said that it gives you full coverage in one pump, because that is quite clearly not the case. However, that has covered all the pinkness in my cheeks now. And I've still got about half a pump left, so I'm going to put that through the centre of my head. It blends really nicely and builds up really easily. It doesn't dry too quickly, even though it is a matte foundation. You know, it gives you time to sort of really blend it out and build it up, which is good. The finish is, like, I really like how it looks on my skin, even at full coverage, because it is really thin and it has just perfected my skin so far. It is quite matte. There's still a little bit of glow here, so I reckon it probably dries down a little bit and then goes completely matte. But what I'm going to do now is just pop on some concealer, set that with powder. I'll take a flash test to see how it performs under flash photography and harsh lighting, and then I'll be back to discuss. Okay, so I popped my concealer on, blended out really, really nicely, and so did my powder on the top. Just, yeah, set down really, really nicely. Worked really well together, was easy to blend. Yeah, worked as normal, my concealer, so that's good. I took a flash test, which I will pop in now. So under flash lighting and photography, it actually looks amazing. Like, my skin looked perfect. It looked really, really nice and even, really good coverage. Well, my skin looked airbrushed basically. There was a slight bit of shine on my chin and round here, but nothing like that's me really, really looking. And that's obviously because it's a matte foundation, but yeah, it does work really well under harsh lighting and flash photography. It has set down and gone a little bit more matte, definitely. I'm just going to see if it transfers and whether you would sort of need to set it with powder or not. So yeah, it still transfers a tiny bit even though it's matte. However, I never set my face with powder, so I won't be doing that today. I do usually use setting spray, but again, I won't be using that. I never do when I do these first impressions, purely because I just like to test the foundation in its truest form, and then I can kind of work out if I like it, how I would use it, and what I would do next time. And I kind of like give you a little recap of that at the end, just in case you haven't seen me do one of these before. But yeah, hang on, me nan's ringing me. Hello, bye. What was I saying? Yeah, so it worked really well under the flash photography. It would look amazing if you were going out and knew that you would be having pictures taken, or you know, you're going to be taking pictures with your friends or out clubbing or whatever you're doing. It looks really nice and performs really well. Excuse me. In pictures, so that's great. But now I'm going to get a closer look and see what it looks like in real life. Okay, so it looks nice. My skin looks really smooth, like under my eyes and across my cheeks. Definitely does look airbrushed. The only thing I would say is it kind of looks a little bit textured across my nose, and the powder I've used to set under my eyes looks a little drier than usual. But obviously I usually use a dewy foundation, whereas this is a matte, so maybe the powder on top of the matte makes it look like just a tiny bit chalky, but it's only sort of right under the eye and right inside here that I can see it, and from a distance it isn't obvious at all. It's sunk slightly into the lines in my head already, which is quite early on to be doing that. Doesn't usually do that with my foundations. I mean, I pull like quite a lot of facial expressions and I use like my forehead and my nose a lot, so it's quite common for it to like sink a little bit into the lines in my head, but usually it takes a little while to do that, whereas it's done it instantly. But again, from a distance you can hardly see that. It's only up close me really looking, but it does look really just smooth generally across my face. Definitely does help me look airbrushed. It has blended really nicely on my skin. It feels super lightweight as well. Literally can't feel it on my skin, and it was really thin, so love that. It has definitely dried down to matte now, which is a bit weird for me to see my face matte because I usually like it dewy. But yeah, it hasn't sunk into my pores. There's no difference from the primed to the unprimed so far, so I'm gonna go away, put the rest of my makeup on, and I'll be back in a few hours to have a first look at how it's doing. Look what I've managed to do. Chocolate all over my top. Why? I've just flipping washed this as well. Be right back. I'm gonna change my top. That's better. Right, it is now nearly 2:20. I've got a hair in our teeth. Doing well so far, aren't I? So I'm back for my first update. The time is nearly 2:20. I think I actually forgot to say the time earlier when I finished filming. It was about 10 o'clock by the time I'd got the foundation on and everything. So yep, time to have a look and see what it's doing. Oh, I'm pleasantly surprised. It looks really good. Actually better than when I first put it on. Earlier it looked, like I said, very matte, which is something I'm not used to. However, I've got a little bit dewy on my chin and sort of in the centre of my head, and since I've put the rest of my makeup on and everything, it looks really, really nice. It's still pretty matte apart from the chin and centre of the forehead area, but it looks nice. It's really smooth across my cheeks. The unprimed side actually looks better to the primed side at the moment. My pores are slightly more visible on the primed side. Not much at all, but just slightly more than the unprimed. The rest of my makeup applied really nicely on top of it as well, so it was like super easy to apply and blend. My highlighter went on really nice. It hasn't faded anywhere. It hasn't even melted around my nostrils yet, which is pretty damn good because I've had it on for almost 4.5 hours. Hasn't sunk any more into the lines in my head, no more than earlier. My eyeshadow built up really nicely on top and blended nicely. Yeah, that's it. It just looks really smooth. My skin still looks pretty airbrushed even from here, and now I've got that tiny little bit of dewiness there. It looks way better than it did earlier. So this could potentially be a good contender if you have oily skin, because it hasn't really gone oily at all anywhere else, and it seems to have like good staying power. Usually around my nostrils is a really big problem for me, and it tends to like get quite oily and the foundation almost like melts away, but it hasn't done that at all, like not even a hint of oiliness round there yet. So this could be a pretty good one for you, but obviously we will see how it continues to wear. But yeah, so far so good. Really liking how it looks. It is weird seeing my face more matte because I do usually look a little bit more dewy than this, just generally, but I do actually like how it looks. So yeah, the coverage is still great as well. I forgot to mention that. You can't see the pinkness in my cheeks. On my freckles you can only see one freckle here, which is a much larger freckle, but other than that can't see anything. So yeah, really good. I will be back in a few more hours with another update. Hello everybody, so it is now 5 to 6, so I've had the foundation on for a total of 8 hours now. Is that right? Yeah, 8 hours, that is right. I doubted myself there. So it's time to have another look and see what it's doing. Okay, still looking great. Still looks really smooth across my cheeks. It's not really got much more oily, slightly more oily on the chin and a little bit in the forehead area, but still looking quite matte everywhere else. Actually, it's kind of looking a little bit demi-matte now, but it's not oily at all. It's got a really nice finish and I really like how it's looking. Still feels super lightweight and comfortable on the skin. Hasn't sunk any more into the lines in my head. The powder I mentioned earlier when I first put it on looked a little bit chalky, but that seems to have settled into the skin now, and it actually looks really nice. When I first did that, I really had the urge to like put setting spray all over my face to kind of help settle the powders into the skin, but that's sort of done that over time. So when I next use this foundation, I would just use a setting spray so that it settles them sooner. But yeah, it is still looking really nice. Still not melted around my nostrils, which is insane because it would definitely have done it by now, because I haven't set there with powder. So usually my foundation doesn't do it if I heavily set with powder, but I haven't done that. I only set under my eyes with the powder and it's still not melted around my nostrils, which is very good. Coverage is still looking great. It's not rubbed off anywhere. It's not clung to any patches. My skin type is kind of, I would say, normal to dry. However, recently I have started to get more oily in my T-zone section, but this foundation is coping with that really well. It's only like slightly shiny on my chin, which next time I might just run sort of excess powder on my chin so that throughout the day that doesn't get as oily. But to be honest, I don't mind it looking like this. It really isn't that oily. It's just slightly dewy, and I think it's only a little bit more noticeable because the rest of the foundation is matte. But yeah, I love how it's looking on my skin. I did not expect to like this one because it's a matte finish, but yeah, I'm really impressed. Doesn't really look any different on the primed to the unprimed, apart from the pores on this section of my cheek are slightly more visible, whereas it seems to have smoothed it on the unprimed side. But I do actually think that the pores on the right side of my face are slightly worse for some reason. But yeah, the primer hasn't sort of aided that at all. And it hasn't really affected the performance or anything of the foundation. So if you don't like primer, then it clearly isn't necessary, because it looks good on the unprimed side, if not better. I've got a little doggy down here stretching out and looking at me. How cute. Rest of my makeup on top still looks really nice. And yeah, that's it. So I will be back in a few more hours for a final update. Hey everyone, so it is now 10:05 and I'm back for my final update. I think it's the part of the video where I start to look a little bit dishevelled because I've eaten dinner and my lipstick's come off. I think it has anyway, I'm assuming. I can't really see in the viewfinder. But yeah, so yeah, I'm back for my final update. So I've had the foundation on for 12 hours now, so let's take another look. Still looking great. Has gone slightly more... Oh, does anyone else get this problem? Lipstick always transfers there when I eat. It's so annoying. Anyway, cool. Wow, yeah, I do look a bit like a hot mess, don't I? Good lord. Let's just sort that out. But yeah, still hasn't really changed all that much. It has lasted really well. It's gone slightly more oily on my chin, a little bit oily on my nose now, and a slightly higher up on my forehead. Still looks great though, and I actually still really like how it looks because it's gone a little bit more dewy across my cheeks, and everywhere else though is still pretty matte. The rest of my makeup still looks really good. It's not like faded. Coverage is still great. The only thing I can notice that's slightly different is it has sunk into my pores ever so slightly more. Still not noticeable. From a distance my skin looks smooth. Oh, and I've got a tiny bit of shine here as well, like really minimal amount. That's the only difference I can see, and again it's still slightly worse on the primed side to the unprimed, but I do think the pores on this side of my face are a little bit worse anyway. Even though it's gone a little bit oily on my chin, it hasn't rubbed off at all. Now I'm going to get a closer look to see if it's melted around my nostrils. No. Oh my god. Really? It's sort of just started to on the primed side and the unprimed side. Yeah, it's just like ever so slightly just started to do it around my nostrils, which for 12 hours wear is really good. I'm very impressed with that. So yeah, overall I really like it. I'm going to continue to use it. I think I would probably use this if I was going on a night out and I needed my makeup to last well and look good in pictures, or if I was going out for a meal with my friends or out in the evening or the day and I don't want to have to touch up my makeup. Yeah, if I was going to be under any harsh lighting on you, I would be taking pictures or something, because this photographs really well and lasts really well as well. Wow. New drinking game. Take a shot every time I say well. Like I said, I've got normal to dry skin and it's not clung to any dry areas, and I kind of get oily in my T-zone, and it has got a tiny bit dewy but nothing major. Like I said, I prefer it like this. And I would wear it out like this. So yeah, if you've got oily skin, I think this could be a really good one for you. You might just need to set your extra oily areas with a bit of powder, and I think that would probably do you well. And if you like matte foundations but have dry skin, I seriously think this would work with your skin type as well, because like I said, it hasn't clung anywhere or gone funny or anything. If you've got quite large pores, that might be something to consider, but you could just use like a pore filling primer underneath, and I think this would look good on top of that. So yeah, I was actually expecting to not like this one, but I was pleasantly surprised. So yeah, another good foundation. I'm doing well with these so far. When I'm to use this foundation again, I would, like I said, just put a little bit of powder on my chin, and I would also spray with setting spray just to make sure the powders settle into my skin sooner. But overall, I really like this foundation. Still feels super lightweight as well, can't fit it on my skin, which is lovely. That's a nice feeling. I hate it when you can feel the makeup on your skin. So yeah, my skin feels like it can breathe, which is great. So yeah, very successful. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you in my next one.